You're going to go through hard things in your life. It's just a question of when. And then you just really appreciate then the times when you don't have traumatic things happening.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to the Trap Set. I want to play something for you. You're hearing Tough Enough by Ex Hex, featuring my guest, Mary Timony, on guitar and vocals. Born in Washington, D.C., Timony first recorded in 1990 with Discord band Autoclave. Over the subsequent years, she's established herself as one of the preeminent songwriters and instrumentalists of her generation. A consistently adventurous artist, Mary inhabits the intersection of virtuosity and experimental abandon. Her diverse body of work comprises recordings with Helium, Wild Flag, and Ex Hex, as well as 4 excellent solo albums. I spoke to her last month in Los Angeles. Ex Hex is now on tour in the UK. And now my conversation with Mary Timony.
My dad worked for the FTC in DC, as I probably told you before. I don't know. He's worked for 50 years for the government. Ended up being a Federal Trade Commission judge. Yeah.
Did you ever go to work with him?
Yeah. I did.
Was it cool?
Yeah, I always thought it was pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
What do you feel when you think about your childhood, emotionally?
Oh, geez. Right in there. It's cool, man. Joe and I are really good friends, by the way. Joe's probably one of my best friends. So this is pretty cool to be doing this. I don't know. Do you not want that in the interview?
No, that can be there. And it gets edited.
I love Joe Wong. He's one of the coolest people I know. Okay, wait. What was the question?
Well, when you're thinking about your childhood, how do you feel right now?
I feel okay about it. To be honest, it wasn't always happy, but yeah. It was.
Most people's isn't.
No, that's true. Yeah. I love my family, but yeah, it just was, there were some stressful times.
We've kind of bonded over the last few
Yeah.
years because both of our dads had been sick.
Right.
My dad passed away, but
I'm sorry.
so I think when
Really
you go
recently,
through that experience,
yeah,
it makes
yeah.
you kind of, I don't know, for me, it made me think about the past and kind of frame everything now. And the times that maybe were less happy seem kind of minimized, not in a dishonest way, but I just feel like
Right.
everybody,
Absolutely.
most people just try their best to make it
Oh,
work.
absolutely.
And then you're carrying whatever demons and neuroses that were given to you, and you
Oh,
try
for
to navigate
sure.
through.
That's why I don't have kids. I wouldn't do that to anybody.
When you say that,
Yeah.
do people ever try to say, "Oh no, you would be a good mom," and try to dismiss your
No.
decision?
Somehow I don't know a lot of people with kids. I don't know.
Because maybe because you're an artist and you're
Yeah.
doing music.
Yeah.
There's fewer people that have kids and stay in the game in that
True.
world.
Yep.
Although lots of people on this show have had kids.
Yeah. Right. Well, lots of people do have kids. That's
Well, the
true.
reason I started the show was because my girlfriend at the time wanted to have kids, and I ran into Brendan Canty when I was touring with Marnie. And I was like, oh, Brendan has 5 fucking kids. 4, actually. But he's got a bunch of kids, and he was in a couple great bands. And he does film scoring. It seems like he's got it all figured out. Then what I
He
figured
does.
out is he kind of does, and then kind of is just figuring it out as he goes
Well,
along.
that's what
you know?
everybody. Yeah, that's what people say about.
But I
you
was,
know.
so
But Brendan's the coolest.
yeah. He was like, make sure you have the right person, the right partner, which I didn't at the time. That person's gone from my life. So he was
Good
right.
riddance.
Yeah, he was right. But enough about me. What kind of music was on in your house when you were growing up?
Well, my dad had a couple records, it was like 3 or 4 records. It was like Don McLean, The Supremes, Bach, and I don't know, didn't listen to a ton of music. My dad was like kind of into it, but my parents just really liked, they're from the era before rock music. So my dad was sort of into, like, I guess if you could say his music is like Frank Sinatra and stuff.
Right. When I first met your dad, he talked to me about Gene Krupa because he knew I was a drummer. And I guess he used to go see him play in New York. Did he go to law school at Fordham or something?
He went to Georgetown.
Or Georgetown.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, he was doing something in New York. He would go travel up there. And
Right. He
would
was
see
working
Gene
up there.
Krupa.
Yeah.
What did you envision for your life when you were a child? What would 10-year-old Mary have pictured?
I remember my dad used to joke with me because he used to ask me that, and I remember telling him, I want to be a big fat mama. And I think I knew that would piss them off if I said
A big fat mama?
I don't know.
Oh, wait, what did that... Can you
I don't know
recall what that meant in your mind?
Because I felt
mental
I don't
picture?
know, my dad. I don't know exactly, but for some reason I was rebelling at like 5 years old. I was like, stop asking me that. I'm going to be a big fat mama. I don't know what that meant. I don't know. It's really weird now that I think about it.
When you first said it, I thought you meant like a pregnant woman.
That's
or
what I
something.
meant.
Yeah.
Like a big fat mom.
Okay.
I don't know, Joe. This is getting weird.
No, I
Let's
love
talk
it.
about
I love
something
it.
else.
When did you start falling in love with music as something that you could do, not just something to listen to?
I was always loved sing. Like most kids, always loved music. Always loved singing. And then my brother got a guitar when I was about 13, and he started writing songs, and I really idolized my brother. He was just like
Patrick.
He's a really important person in my life. I actually feel like most of my songs are about my brother.
You even have an album named after him.
I do, or a song, Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because my brother and I felt like we had this real bond when we were little kids because we were just like, I don't know. Felt like we're figuring all shit out for ourselves, basically. So, I don't know. My family wasn't always a happy place, I guess. And my brother and I felt a little bit isolated and on our own, maybe. Emotionally, probably.
Did it seem like their expectations for you weren't in line with who you were as a person?
Oh, yeah,
eventually?
totally. I mean, they were just very confused. But now, I love my parents so much. And actually now they've, super supportive. But for a time, I think they've expected that we would be different than we were.
When did you feel like music was something that you could participate in?
Participate in? I don't know. Like probably in high school.
Well,
Yeah.
you went to a couple different high schools, right?
I did, yeah.
But then you wound up at Ellington.
I did, yeah.
What
Yep.
was that experience like?
The best thing that could have ever happened to me. I was a really depressed kid for whatever reason. I don't know, I was just like really not doing well. And then actually I really have to hand it to my mom because it was her idea for me to go to this art school.
And for people that don't know, Ellington School for the Arts is a DC institution. It's a public school.
Right.
And people like everybody from Michelle and Degiacello to Dave Chappelle have gone
Debbie
there.
Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an incredible experience. I just, got to be around kids I wouldn't normally be at school with who were cool, made friends, like people would visit the school all the time, like Dionne Warwick spoke at our graduation. Like you'd like walk down the hall and Tito Jackson would be like walking down the hall the other direction. And
Whoa.
it was just like, cool. We had like, guitar class with Joe Pass, and like it was like tonight, go see Stanley Jordan at Blues Alley and like talk to him. It was just really great, and it got me out of my weird little Northwest Washington D.C. depressed world, and it was wonderful. So I'm so thankful. It saved my life, actually.
Wow.
It really did.
When you say you were really depressed
Yeah.
before that, like how did that manifest?
How did it manifest? I just was seriously depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why even. Maybe it was chemical. It runs
Yeah.
in my family, and my brother was very troubled, and that was very difficult. I hate to point it all on him. He was
Yeah.
sort of just displaying whatever was going on in the family, but he ended up dealing with all the stress in my family by getting wasted and doing drugs, as a lot of people do. When
Yeah.
you don't know, you're a kid, and you're like, I'm stressed out. This stuff's making me feel better. So yeah, he was pretty wild, and I was always worried about him, and I think that was really hard for me, but it wasn't him,
Right.
He was just displaying the junk. But so there was that, and then I don't know, I was just depressed.
And
I was
you were-
anxious and depressed.
You
yeah.
were studying viola first, right?
Yeah, as a kid, I took viola a lot.
And
yeah.
in high school, were you still playing viola?
Yeah, until ninth grade, and then I got into guitar and stopped taking viola lessons.
When you started getting into guitar, what were you listening to?
First, I got kind of into new wave, and like my friends were all listening to like The Cure and The Smiths and all that stuff, which I was kind of into, but not like totally into. But anyway, I don't know. I got into like Hendrix and like Joni Mitchell, and then I started going to these punk shows in DC. Like my friend Maria Salehi told me about this cool show that was happening at the Chevy Chase Community Center, and I went to see like, it was like, who was it? Rites of Spring and Beef Eater. I
Oh,
think.
wow.
Yeah, actually, and then I was remembering before that, my other show that I went to, which may have been before this, was actually Pussy Galore at this like college party in Philadelphia in this gross basement. Yeah, so it's weird. But yeah, I remember that being like this like druggy like den where they were playing, and then
Pussy Galore show.
yeah, and then like the next show was like this cool like all ages, hardcore show. But anyway,
Well, yeah,
then
and you
there
grew up
just- yeah.
a few houses down from the Mackay family too.
Yeah, well, my family lived on Beecher Street in Glover Park on the same block as the Mackay family. And we knew each other when we were really little kids. Alec and my brother were buddies. And yeah, then my family kept that house as a rental, but moved like a mile from there. But I was always back there with my dad, like working on, while he worked on the house and like hanging out. And my parents remained friends with Bill and Ginger. But yeah, and then like when I was, I guess like in middle school or something, I heard about Minor Threat in the Washington Post. My dad was
They
like,
were in the
"Ian's-"
Washington Post.
Well, I don't know. I remember my dad came home. He was like, Ian has a band and it's in the Post. Yeah.
So that must mean it's
So I was like,
serious.
oh man, those kids are so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, I didn't. Then I got to, like, then in high school, I'd start seeing his bands play and stuff, and I went to see like every single Fugazi show ever that I could till I left DC.
Was it right before college or after your first year of college you did Autoclave?
Yeah, I met Christina from just going to shows in DC, and we jammed a bunch, and we're just trying to start a band, but we couldn't find a drummer. And then I think what happened is I left to go to school, and she found Melissa and Nikki and started playing with them, and then she was like, hey, why don't you come jam with us? So then, yeah, I think it actually technically started when I lived in Boston, but we'd been trying to start it for a while. Yeah,
you went to school at BU. What did you study there?
I went for classical guitar for a year, but it was like I wasn't a very resourceful kid, and it was not a good place to go for that instrument. It was more like good for orchestral instruments. So my guitar teacher like spent a lot of time talking about antiques and Rhode Island history, and I complained about him to the like guy who was like the head of the music department. And he was like, well, that's too bad. I'm sorry. But anyway, he got fired the year after I left. Anyway, then I was like, I'm just gonna study something else. So I started taking English classes, and I got an English degree, whatever, BA, whatever that is, undergrad.
When you were in college, did you have ambitions of becoming a professional musician?
So when I don't know, I was confused. It took me a really long time to figure out how like whatever kind of music I liked or was learning about, like through music lessons, combined with like this music that my friends were making. You know, it just didn't make any sense in my brain. Like it didn't seem like a totally separate world.
Where the music that your friends were making was DIY,
punk
and it
music.
was
or whatever,
not rooted in the same kind of academic approach that you were embracing in school.
I guess so, yeah. Which I had just done because I always took music lessons, and I liked making stuff by myself in my room. But it didn't, like, I felt like a real nerd. And I was a nerd, but like a real, like, legitimate nerd.
Because it was like in the punk world at that time, it wasn't cool to act like you were trying to be a good musician.
No, because I don't know why, but yeah, because that's what punk is. It's like
it seems like it was a rejection of that. Like,
right.
Because if you follow it to the other end of the spectrum, there's this philosophy that you're supposed to become a virtuoso first, and then you're entitled to have an opinion or entitled to make a statement. And so I think like punk was a rejection of that idea, among other things.
Oh, yeah.
On the other hand, it is kind of cool to dive into an instrument and the history of it and the traditions of it, and discard it if you want, or keep it if you want. Keep the pieces you want. Combining
both things is good. Like, you know, I don't know. It's not cool to not know what you're doing. I don't like that, you know?
Yeah.
like I can only listen to that kind of music so much unless somebody's just a genius.
Right.
Which that exists too, and that's wonderful.
Sure.
But and I also really hate when music is like super technical but has no ideas. Like so it's just like ideally it's nice to find a balance between the two. Well,
do you feel like you've had an easy time kind of harnessing your own conviction, or building, like getting in touch with conviction around your musical ideas?
Wait, say that again.
Let me rephrase it. Okay. Yeah. Do you feel like conviction is something that comes easily to you when it comes to expressing your own musical ideas?
I can go in and out of that. I've been able to get in that zone. Because it's a healing place to be when you don't, like, for me, like maybe not feeling heard in other parts of my life. Like it was nice to have this like outlet. But then when I really think about it, like, what am I doing? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why would anyone care about this weird idea that I have? So then
how would you answer that question? Why would anybody care about that idea?
I can't answer it. I don't know.
Because it's a great idea.
Sometimes it's okay. I don't know.
See, the thing that I find confusing about you is that when I'm looking from the outside, I see somebody who's incredibly accomplished that has made so many different types of statements over the last 30 years. I mean, from Autoclave to what you're doing now with Ex Hex. And you've kind of put out records on a regular basis over that entire time. And you know, maybe some of them still resonate with you more than others, but you kept trying and kept moving and kept doing things.
Thanks, Joe.
But then but then you're also pretty self-deprecating sometimes too. So it's like a contradiction, because something in there, the confidence is there somewhere.
Yeah, no, I know. I guess I can't do anything else. I mean, you know, that's part of it, is that I've tried and I get really, I mean, I like teaching guitar, but it's just ultimately, I think making records does something for me that I need, because I don't get it from other parts of my life or something. I don't know. There must be something in it that's good for me. No, I mean, yeah, it's like, I enjoy the process.
Yeah.
You know, it's just what I do, and I feel really bad if I stop doing it. So, yeah.
Today's episode of The Trap Set is brought to you by SONOS. SONOS meticulously designs every speaker from the inside out, combining custom-made, best-in-class components with proprietary software. They sent me a Play 5 system, and it holds its own against my studio monitors that cost over 10 times as much. Go to sonos.com to learn more.
Tell me about how Helium became a band.
I met those guys when I was last year of college. I was in a really bad place in my life, to be honest. I've had 2 real low depressions as an adult, and that right around like after college was one of them. It was just like a chemical thing almost. I just could not function. But anyway, when that band started, I was in a rough spot, but I kept going with it, and I don't know. It's not a great story, Joe. I don't like that time in my life.
Oh, you don't?
Not that much.
Because you were mostly
really
inside
depressed.
you were depressed?
Yeah, it was miserable.
During the band?
Yeah, until about The Dirt of Luck came out, and then that record was really fun to make. It was just the beginnings of that band. It was hard for me.
Was there anything that you did yourself to kind of emerge from the depression, or did it lift kind of on its own?
Oh no, I mean, I had to go to therapy, and
that helped.
Oh yeah, and got on meds. I mean, yeah, got on meds, was on therapy, started learning about how to be a person in the world, and how to just little things like how to get a day planner, I just didn't know anything. I was a clueless kid. I'd been in school my whole life, and suddenly was isolated in Boston. All my friends left Boston by myself, isolated probably from my family too, because they were just like, what are you doing? Why don't you go, get a job? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I'm not getting a job. I'm going to be this crazy person who starts a rock band. Be a big fat mama. Yeah, my parents were really worried about me. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have any life skills, so it was just a rough time. You know what I did? I ended up getting 5 jobs and then quitting them all. But that helped. I literally had 3 jobs or something.
You mean at the same time?
Yeah. I would go work in this record warehouse. Then I was a telemarketer at night. Then I did that for one summer, and then we started going on tour, and I had to quit those jobs. But I was depressed because I didn't know if I wanted to do Helium. Actually, I kind of wanted to live in DC. To be honest, I didn't get along with the people in Helium at that time and at all. And I was just like, I live in this random city. I don't have all my friends left. I don't get along with these guys. My parents think I'm a loser. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. I was super isolated. I remember just like going to sleep all day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
In phases.
It's not good. Yeah.
Wow. But so then you through therapy and
I just thought, yeah, I don't know how I went to the I to be honest, yeah, I was in a really bad, destructive place. But yeah, I somehow got myself to a therapist and on meds, and then I got all these jobs, and then I started being able to think clearly.
Because you were busy?
Yeah, because I was busy and on the meds, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go with doing Helium because that's, things are happening for us, and I'll just do that. And my depression started to lift, and then I don't know, it's just a lot to fucking learn at the same time. I was a clueless kid. I had no life skills, I mean, I just didn't know what the hell. I knew that it was wrong to be a musician from what my parents taught me.
Yeah, got it.
I was like doing something that bad people do.
Yeah, degenerates.
Yeah, I was becoming a degenerate. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, they were not.
They probably at that point would have been happy if you would have become a big fat mama instead of a musician.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, my mom was like, why don't you become a dental hygienist? And my dad was like, okay, it's time to go to law school.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, give me a goddamn break. I'm like out of school for like 2 months. Anyway, it was really confusing, and I felt like I was doing something bad with my life.
But also at the time, again, from an outsider's perspective, like I was in high school when that band was happening. And you guys were on the coolest label, Matador, at the time, and you had videos on MTV. It seemed like you were some sort of huge band, and it was like I'm talking probably about a 6-month period. When the band first started, but then when it started going on, it was fine. I was much better, I think. But it was just like the decision of whether to do the band and sign to the record label. And that was what was really hard. Yeah, and I guess it wasn't necessarily like something you had dreamt of doing from when you were a little kid.
No.
Like, I'll sign to a record label someday.
I mean, I grew, the way I learned about music was from the punk scene in DC, which was like, just like people they have a band for a year and you're playing for your friends in DC, like.
And then you break up.
And then you break up and maybe you start another, but it was like nobody was trying to, it was very much a subculture and just something that you did with your friends. And it wasn't like people wanted to have music careers. So, I don't know, Joe. I don't know what I'm even talking about.
No, this is all really good.
Okay.
When did you feel like it wasn't a bad thing to be a musician?
Honestly, I'm just getting there.
Mm-hmm. Like there's always been like some sort of underlying feeling that you're wasting your time?
Until my mid-30s. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just fucked up shit from my childhood. Yeah, it's just childhood stuff. Like, I don't know. I am there now.
Yeah.
I am there now, and I feel good about it. But it's taken me a long time. I just always felt like it was something that you weren't supposed to be doing.
Probably from your parents' perspective, they were just worried and they wanted you to have a nice life, and they had nobody in their life that they knew who was a musician and happy, you know?
Right. Yep.
So it wasn't like they were trying to crush your dreams or anything.
No, my mom just she had a thing. She was an actress. She got mixed up with this messed up like crew of actors, and they were traveling around the country, and it was like some really messed up stuff happened to her. So she has trauma around like
the arts.
Yes, and being on tour. So every time I would tell her I was going on tour, she'd be like, "Oh my God, not again, not again, not again. Why do you need to do this?" Like, yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting, I guess. I'm not sure. But yeah, she was very worried about me. My dad was always like super psyched about like the band getting attention and stuff. So yeah, my parents were really like, my dad was like, not really, he didn't really know what I was doing or anything, but super supportive of the fact that it, was like doing something that people cared about. And, but my mom just thought I was nuts, but the weird thing is that she really encouraged me to take music lessons. So it's just like,
your mom probably wanted you to get the same kind of joy that you got from music that she got from acting, but then once you became more serious about it, wanted to protect you from the same trauma that happened to her.
Yep. They just wanted kids that were successful.
You are successful.
Well, no, I mean,
You're
they
so
just
successful.
wanted, just wanted people that were kind of, I don't know.
Traditionally
I think my brother and
successful.
I are just very weird for them, I guess. I don't know.
That was
exactly
the universe throwing them a curveball.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, who are these people that are our kids? They're
It's
so weird.
interesting. You could have just been an intern for Ronald Reagan. It could have gone that way. Why didn't it?
I don't know how they got these.
It totally could have gone that way.
I know. It's strange that, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get when you have kids. Sometimes they're different from you, I guess.
That's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, one of the other things that I find so inspiring about you is when we met, I was playing drums for you. I was subbing for our mutual friend, Devin. And you had made a solo record called Ex Hex.
That's right.
And it was a duo thing. So it was just you and me in a station wagon
I
for
know.
a couple weeks.
Yeah.
We were opening for Spoon for most of it, I think. And then the record after that, The Shapes We Make, which I think is also a great record. Your career had kind of dipped down from what it had been with Helium, and you just kept going and kept making really awesome music. And then you just kind of rose back up popularity wise. And the thing that I found really inspiring is that you didn't let those external, like, obviously I won't say that the external factors didn't impact the way you felt, because it's like when you put something out in the world and people don't recognize it the way you want it to be recognized, it hurts, but you worked through that and just kept going. And now you're kind of back on top with Ex Hex. It's incredible.
Thanks,
that
Joe.
You just keep going.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I went through this, like, one thing that I did as a younger person was just never made any decisions based on like selling records, or because for whatever reason, I was just making music because I wanted to, but also just writing songs from, that felt, healing to me or something, or like more like writing in my diary. And then I guess it took me. And I also, I also was never good at like the stuff we were talking about before we did this interview with just like, I just was never good at the business side, or like, who are you playing with? Like, how do you record? Like being assertive in the studio, like this mastering doesn't sound right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like, I don't think there should be, whatever that's happening in the studio that's not working. I would always be like, sounds great, guys. Yeah, it's mastered, like, it sounds really tinny, but that's fine. No one's going to listen to it. I just was like really bad at being assertive. And I was also just super focused on the process of writing songs, and then like very precious about everything that I wrote. And it was just a whole different way of being a musician. And I was never concerned about like how many people are coming to the shows. Like, do people like this? Like, I don't know, like Mountains got like a 2 on Pitchfork or something. Like, people hated that record, like literally hated it.
It's just because it was ahead of its time.
That's very nice of you. But you know what?
No,
I
but
actually
do you agree with that? I mean, what do you mean that's very nice of me? I think it's a great record.
Thanks.
Do you think it's a great record?
I think it could have been a lot better if I had been able to record it the way I should have.
Meaning that you didn't take responsibility
Yeah.
to make it what
no,
you were
not at all.
hearing in your head.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually recorded a whole version of the record, and it's sitting somewhere on a DAT tape, but I really want to find it. I think I don't have it anymore, but we got rid of that version, and then I was like, because I just felt like it didn't. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't It wasn't good. So then I went back and re-recorded the whole record, and then it just kind of sounded like demos because I did like a lot of it on like early digital, Pro Tools or whatever. I don't know, man. I just did what I did. I don't know. I remember at the time, not being happy with the way it came out, but
it also seems like you've become better at being assertive and articulating your
right.
vision
We were
for
just
things.
talking all about this before we did this interview, but yeah, it's like a life. You the longer you live life, the more you learn, and hopefully try to make things easier for yourself in terms of just like figuring out how to get through the world. And yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot better at going, okay, what is this weird feeling I have in my stomach? Maybe it's that I don't like the way that guitar sounds. You know what I mean? Like maybe I need to stop and just say, hey guys, like, can I fix that? It's just like skills that I didn't have as a younger person. I've gotten better at.
Did you figure out a way out of your depression, or did it just kind of lift like a cloud?
No, I had to really work on it to get out and make changes in my life and change the way I think about things. And it was tough, man. I was pretty isolated in Boston on my own, and it's hard, but being a musician is not easy, especially if you're, gosh, I don't know. I just didn't have a lot of structure, I guess, or bandmates, and it was just, or a relationship, or it was just tough, and I just hadn't figured out how life worked yet, I guess. Well, not that I have now, but it was definitely harder. When you're in your 20s, things are more, everything's like more extreme, I guess. Especially if you're someone who, I don't know, just being the musicians, whatever. I don't know what I'm really saying. It was harder for me, I guess. And I think after that record and after I turned 30 and I went, I did work really hard on myself, and like, all I can say is I think I really am one of those people that has a chemical imbalance. I was just severely depressed, like chemically, because when I look back on it, I don't even know why. It's just that I felt isolated, really, and away from my friends and family, and just doing a difficult thing. My relationship, obviously, my long-term relationship for my whole 20s had ended, and that was super rough. And it's like typical stuff. But anyway, I just had to work really hard on myself, and I did, I guess, because I started to get better. I mean, I went to therapy and, went on meds and again. So anyway.
If you had a telephone that could go into the past and you could advise 29 or 30-year-old Mary on what to do, could you give her any advice that would help?
You're talking to someone who has depression. It is really indescribable. Like, the way your thinking happens is really just like, it doesn't make sense. It's like a disease, because I remember thinking like I should die and like things like that. And like now that I look back and I'm like, why did I think that? It doesn't make any sense. Like I didn't have there weren't any tragedies happening. Like it was really, honestly, I think it's like a mental imbalance that was going on in my brain. And also just like, it's hard to not have structure in your life and stuff. I don't know. What I would say was just like, chill out and just try to relax and don't worry. It's not that bad. I don't know. You're going to be okay.
if you go through something like that and then it happens again, then at least you have the comfort of knowing that
Well,
you've emerged from it before.
Yeah, it wasn't
you
as
know?
bad as the time I was depressed when I was 23. That's true. Because I was like, okay, I know what this is.
If you get a hint of
Yeah.
those feelings in your current life, you at least know, okay, here's what's happening. I can't take it too seriously. I
For
can get
sure.
out of
And
this.
I mean, now if I ever feel depressed now, I absolutely am more stronger in that I'm like, okay, like I know what this is. But yeah, at that point, I didn't. Plus, I had gone on, I was like going through med trials and stuff. So I mean, literally, I think it's chemicals in your brain. And your brain is just not. I don't know, Joe. It's like tough. I mean, you could go and like, I could go and think about like, yeah, I mean, my life did kind of suck. I had no money at all, and I was totally broke, and just lost this person I loved a lot, and I was isolated. So yeah, of course I was depressed, but the amount of not being able to function didn't, that was something more extreme than I didn't have to feel that extreme, but I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm just rambling.
No, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
You've counseled me through periods when I was going through similar things.
I know. You're
So
right. I know. Yeah.
it was helpful.
Yeah, it's helpful to be connected to people. That is true.
You mentioned that you didn't have any structure at the time. Have you been able to work out some strategies to implement structure in your life?
Yeah, definitely. I think things got better after I left Boston because Boston's super expensive, and I was just like so broke and had all these shitty jobs. Like, yeah, when I think about it, like, yeah, of course I was depressed. Like, I had no money. I had to like work at filing things in a hospital, and yeah, it sucked.
Weren't you also working for an inventor, like a toy inventor?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, that was one of the jobs I had. I had a million different shitty jobs. That one wasn't shitty. That was kind of cool actually. But yeah, he was this guy who made sculptures, like public art sculptures, and then also, yeah, he like made 3D images that were printed on like things like rulers, and that was a short-term job that didn't last. I got fired, but mostly what I did was I was a temp worker for the most of my 20s.
I think when I met you, you were walking dogs.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So what I was gonna say is, after I moved back to DC, I've never had I haven't had severe depression here. It was something that only happened in Boston. I don't know what it was about
Boston is a
but
depressing place.
yeah, Boston. I'm sorry, but I had a rough time there. Yeah, but yeah, after I got back here, like, I don't know, the music community is really supportive here, and it's where I'm from, so my family is here, so it was nice to be near them. And then I started teaching guitar, and that was really great for me because I started connecting with these kids and helping them, and that really got me out of my head, seeing them get better at a skill, and knowing I was like helping kids was really positive and awesome.
Just thinking of somebody else's needs first.
Yeah.
Especially for people like us that don't have kids of our own. When you're working with a kid and teaching them, you're locking onto what they want to do. And I think that helps
absolutely
get you out of your own head.
Oh, for
get
sure.
out of your own way.
Yeah, you just stop thinking about yourself, and thinking about what someone else needs, because they do need you, and it's great. It's like a super positive thing, and it's totally, yep.
Around the time that you moved back to DC is when I started playing in your band.
Oh, yes.
You had done your third solo album, Ex Hex, not to be confused with your current band.
Yeah.
But it was just it was a duo album that you made with our friend Devin,
right.
And he was on tour with his own band. And I came to town to sub for him, and we went on tour with Spoon.
Yeah.
And it was a great time.
It was fun. Yeah.
One thing that I've always found really inspiring about you is, despite anything that you've just talked about, is you're prolific. From the time that you did the Autoclave record, you've basically put out a record every couple years. I mean, you just keep going. And so I wonder, what is your creative cycle like? Because, well, you helped me make my record, and I think you were the best possible person to do that with me, because I felt like I couldn't do it. And
I know.
You kind of explained to me that that's just part of the normal cycle. So what is your creative cycle like?
I mean, well, first of all, I've been talking to you about you making your record since we toured together, I think.
For over 10 years.
Yeah. And it was cool to watch the progression from you being like, just talking about it once in a while. But you consistently talked about how you wanted to do it. But it was always followed by, like, maybe I'll do that someday. And you felt weird, like.
I didn't feel like I was qualified to do it. Like I built up things in my head where I felt like, well, I should be a better musician before I make a record. I should be able to play more instruments. Well, it was just me being, it was a way of hiding.
Right. You're like rationalizing it.
Enough about me. I want to know about how do you make an album? How do you know when it's time to start, and how do you know when it's done? What is the cycle for you?
Well, God, I don't know, Joe. I'm just thinking, it's just something I've been doing, and if I don't do it, then I don't know what else to do. I tried to stop, and it was really boring, so I just keep, going to the next record cycle because, I don't know. It's just, it's what I do, I guess. But I know we've had this conversation. I always pretty much perpetually feel like I will never be able to make another record again.
And then you always do.
I guess, yeah. But I always feel blocked, and pretty much, I can't really remember, the times that I don't feel creatively blocked, it'll lift, and then I'll write some stuff, and then it comes back. So it's sort of like right now, I haven't written a song, since before we made this record. So in a year, I haven't even tried to write a song. And I've gone through periods, longer than that. And it's just like a muscle. If you don't use it, then it kind of, gets harder to do it. But I guess, I don't know. I don't know what else to do. I like making records. The thing that I like most about music is making records. I always hated touring until recently. After I turned 40, I started understanding why it's important to tour and why it's important to put on a good show, and it's fun to connect with the audience and all that stuff. I just was really clueless about that stuff because I came from the 90s and from the punk scene in DC where nobody, it was about expressing yourself, I guess, and and it was, nobody was let's put on a show for the audience, and how many people were there, or how many records did you? It was just kids being angry on stage. So, and also the 90s were just an angry time. It was you see Paul and Ash would have his back to the audience the whole time. There was in the 90s there was a thing about the performer being angry at the audience, and there was that dynamic. Bikini Kill shows or Fugazi. There was that dynamic. But anyway, I don't know why it didn't work when I tried to stop making records, but I just got really bored. I tried.
When did you try?
In my mid-30s, because honestly, Joe, that tour we did together, even though it was really fun, after we came back, I was I think I spent one night sleeping next to my head, not far away from a cat litter box in Pensacola, Florida. Do you remember that house, the shag carpeting?
Was that when we were doing the tour for The Shapes We Make?
Yeah. That tour. Yeah, that was the next tour. And I remember like a couple nights.
I always tell people I played with Mary during the lowest point of her
Yeah,
career.
yeah, that's true. I do remember a couple nights where like, okay, where do you got where we stay? Like maybe okay, so like maybe we'll ask from someone at the club, or like I was kind of getting into that because I had learned that that's what people do, and then like I was like, you know what? I came home and I was like, I'm like 35. I don't feel good about myself begging to like stay at people's houses, and then sleeping next to the cat box really got me, and I was just like, I'm just gonna try not touring for a little while. But that got to be boring. So something's coming over me. Got cabin fever now. I can't see. I feel hot. I feel cold. I tell you why, but I'm not that bold. There's a scratch on my cheek. Faint but never weak. When you're near, I'm seeing visions. They're just not so clear. Oh, oh. But you're coming through in stereo.
Well, then the next thing that kind of happened after that is you started Wild Flag.
Oh yeah, right. Well, okay, so yeah, I took a break for a while, and then that came along, and that kind of got me back in the rock record tour cycle game.
Well, it also boosted your visibility again because it was this super group.
Yeah, I mean, they were putting together a band, and they called me up and said, hey, we'll join the band. And I was like, this is great, because it was like, yeah, people that I'd always wanted to play with, and it was a really good experience. But also, like, I feel like that record, The Shapes We Make, and like the tour we did together, like that was I functioned in a certain way till that record cycle, and then I took a break, and then when I came back to music, like I was doing it from a totally different part of my brain. I think like there was something about like the Helium and then the solo records that I did where like my number one priority was being creative and writing music, that expressed something that I felt or an idea that I had that I thought was cool. But then when I came back to it, it was more just like as an outsider, like not so much in Wild Flag, but definitely with Ex Hex, but a little bit in Wild Flag, just like kind of as an outsider, like, okay, I've seen that there's this, I don't know, suddenly I felt more objective about the whole thing. And I was like, okay, well, bands, do this and this and this. And and I'm going to follow this like template and just see what happens rather than just only like thinking of my creativity and not caring about how many records we sold or not caring about, I just did not really care about selling records or putting on a good show or like any, it was just purely from this artistic thing before. So yeah, that was the big shift for me. Then now with Ex Hex, it's more of like, just think more about that stuff, which is fun.
Yeah. And it's not non-artistic.
It's just a
different way.
Right. I'm just approaching it more as a craft and like looking at the band career as a whole, and just getting more into like being present when we're performing and like knowing people are there and connecting with them and like trying to sing in a way that sounds better. Like learning how to sing for the first time has been really hard and really fun and a challenge, so I'm working on that. And yeah, it's just like new stuff that I'm trying to learn how to do better now.
How does it change the way you feel when you're on tour?
I'm much more present. Like before, I just wasn't, I like until I was like 35, and when I did the Helium and the solo records, like I just wasn't that present. I was kind of more in my, all I really cared about was like being creative, and all the other stuff was like the necessary evil that you had to do. Like you had to go on tour, you had to put on shows. Like it was sort of a pain in the ass. Like, I don't know, it's Just it was a different mindset.
Whereas now you're embracing
Yeah,
all of it as
all
kind of
of
like a
it.
big art project.
Yeah. And before it was like, well, I enjoy the process of going on tour. It's fun to eat really good food. Like that would be the priority. Or like, like it's a pain in the ass to carry t-shirts in the van, so let's not get any. Like that. You know what I mean?
love it.
Or like,
Yeah, I remember we would never do sound checks.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. The first tour Helium went on of the US, it was like, we didn't advance the shows because I didn't even know about that, I guess. And like the guy who used to do that stuff had left the band. So we didn't advance any shows. We didn't do any sound checks. And like, we just didn't do anything we didn't want to do. And
I think that's kind of cool in a way, actually.
well, it was fun. We enjoyed going, doing whatever we were doing instead of doing sound checks. It was much more fun.
Yeah, my whole thought at the time was like, if you're a good drummer, you should be able to just pull up and make it sound good no matter what, with or without a sound check. That was my
yeah, exactly.
attitude.
And it's a lot easier to have that attitude, and you're probably not right, But then again, you can show up and do sound check and then get everything get messed up and then be exhausted.
Yeah,
too,
that's the thing is like half of the time you would show up and sound check and then they would forget all the settings anyway.
Yeah, that's
so it was a
happened a
complete
lot.
waste of time.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, it seems like you're just embracing all of those facets of being in a band now.
Yeah.
And
That was my motivation.
actually it's working out. It's actually proving yourself
I
right.
just learned some skill. I learned some skills that I didn't have before. That's all. I'm doing is I just learned like, for whatever reason, because I'm really shy, whatever. Like I had a certain skill set, and I didn't learn how to sing. I didn't learn how to perform. I didn't know about those things, and I didn't know I wasn't good at them or care. But then, when I came back to it, I was like, well, maybe I'll try to work on those skills because it's fun. And then I actually found out that I was enjoying it more. So there you have that, there you go.
Well, maybe there was some sort of insecurity before that you were
Probably.
masking.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But I will say for the record that I don't think you were ever a bad singer. I think you always had an
pretty
interesting
bad.
and cool voice.
Yeah,
and
thanks,
the songs
but-
were delivered in an interesting
Thanks, Joe.
way.
Yeah.
And now you just sound like frickin' Taylor Swift. 'cause you're
yeah,
so pro.
pretty much. I just try to sound like Taylor Swift now. So, no, I've been working on how to relax my certain muscles and stuff. It's so hard. God, so hard.
It's interesting for me to hire singers for film scoring projects and watch what professional people do when I'm just recording them.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's illuminating. It's like, okay, they're really there's the standard.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, you really can work on it and get really good.
You can work on it and get good. But then there's some people that are just naturally aligned, like their muscles and their just structure of their way, their, body is aligned correctly in order to sing well. And that's pretty cool. It's a gift some people have.
Another way that I think you and I have gotten closer over the last few years is that you are one of my very best friends, but you've been there for me as my dad got sick and was dying.
I know.
And over the last couple years, your dad has also been sick.
Mm-hmm.
And how has that relationship changed, and how is it changing your outlook?
Yeah, you mean with my family?
With your parents? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have to say, Joe, has been a nice thing to have you as a friend and, be able to talk about this stuff, because you really have been through it with your dad. Is so hard for so long for you. And yeah, I just felt for you, and it was really nice that I could talk to you about what was going on with my family when it was bad this year. But yeah, I mean, It's just been a rough year. Parents get older and it happens to everybody. But yeah. So my dad's been really sick. He has just a series of really serious stuff. He's hanging in there now, but yeah, it's been a very traumatic year with him. He had like cancer, a stroke, and dementia, and like all kinds of stuff related to the dementia, just crazy behavior stuff. And I love my dad and mom, and I've been helping them out a lot. I live right down the street, so it's been my year pretty much.
It seems like we are on the same page in the sense that when something like that happens, it can realign your priorities, and it can make you aware of things you might have been overlooking that are actually incredibly important.
Oh, yeah.
And then also, for me, it's been easier to let go of bullshit that really doesn't matter.
Yeah. The biggest thing that I've gotten out of this whole experience because my year has been crazy. Other than that, there was also other stuff going on that was really difficult, like a long-term relationship breaking up and my dad getting sick, my brother being also, I don't know, having really difficult time, all kinds of stuff. So it's just been like a really intense year. But I think the funny thing is like that stuff was all going on while Ex Hex was making the record, including the breakup, which was with the Jonah who's producing the record. So it was just like a shit show, basically. And I went into the year thinking the record would be the most stressful part of the year. And it actually ended up being like the most fun and most joyous thing. And I loved every second of it because it was like really, I mean, Joan and I were doing it together and we get along really well in that context. And, it became like something super positive, and I just wasn't worried about it anymore. And like I was able, like things that would stress me out, like, oh, we didn't, whatever, like what's the right guitar sound? It was like, whatever, I don't care. I'm having fun doing this, and like I'm gonna do this guitar take until it's right. It's not a big deal. It's not stressful. Like I just things that would have stressed me out before became really not a big deal. And in general, just think, it was like, I learned don't sweat the small stuff this year, because life has a lot of stuff that's really painful and really hard, and it's going to happen to you, and in the meantime, when there's things that aren't that, might have stressed you out before, like there's no point, worrying about the little things. So anyway, that's what I got out of it, I guess. But I think you were saying similar stuff. Like you learned that you just have to, do the things that you want to do. There's no reason to be. Isn't that right? You were saying that? Like that's why you moved to LA and
yeah. I think it had something to do with that. And yeah, I recommend it. I think having a parent die is good for everybody. So
oh, jeez. Oh, I'm sorry about your dad. Creativity. Yeah. Well, I know you're. I mean, it really puts things into perspective. And the thing is, like, you realize, like, the bad. I hate. It's true that like you're gonna go through hard things in your life. It's just a question of when, and then you just really appreciate then the times when you don't have traumatic things happening.
It also just makes you realize how little time there is to fuck around.
That's what I'm saying that I got. Yeah, same thing. It's just like, okay, like, wow, I've really got to appreciate the time that I have and not waste it.
Well, I think that's a good place to end it.
Okay.
Mary Timony, thank you so much for being on the show. You're a hero.
Oh, Joe, you're the best.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.